Hey everyone, sorry I want to apologize for to you all. My audio has not been on. I just realized that. I hope you all can hear me now. I'll go ahead and make sure I stream for an extra 7 minutes because everything I've been saying you guys have just been trying to lip read. So I apologize about that. Okay, let's keep on going here. So I've just, I'll just briefly go over what I've been talking about. At the beginning, we copy and pasted the acceleration, the first acceleration pose to the spin attack. A new layer, we created a new layer, copy and pasted the first frame from the acceleration animation. And I talked about how we have a swing right and a swing left. Hit attack move, and what we're animating today is a spin attack where the mallet boy's mallet goes up in the air and does kind of a spinning tornado-y kind of move, and it sends a shock wave out around him, knocking players around him out to the sides. And yeah, that's where we're animating. And I was going over strong silhouette, right, in animation, and we want to make sure that we get a really strong, super strong silhouette in our animation, and that a strong silhouette can make up for weaker animation. Not that the animation itself or like the physical animation or whatever is weak, but just like the idea of the animation, it might be kind of a weaker animation that you get in requested at the studio, and it's not as solid animation as the rest of them. But a strong silhouette or strong pose will help with that, and it could make up for a lot of the weaker animation ideas or choices that you've made in there. And so right now I'm just building out a pose that is going to be this attack move, right? And I'm just working through it, and I'm just blocking in the main storytelling pose, right? That's the way I work. That's kind of the way I animate. Is I block in the very first pose I create is my storytelling pose. What is the mood of this animation? What am I trying to convey in this, right? And in this attack move, what he's going to be doing is he's going to be throwing his hand up in the air, and then the mallet is going to start spinning, right? And that's the main story pose. And so if I can get a solid pose down for the story pose, it's gonna guide the rest of the animation, right? And I can build the frames before that, and I can build frames after that. And in my eyes, in my process, it just makes things go a lot easier and smoother with everything. So let's go ahead and go through this. Throws it up in the air. And this mallet, it's actually going to be kind of evolve, I think, through the animation, because I do have it parented here to his arm, right? And I don't, and some you might think that's a bad thing. You might think, oh, why would you want it parented to the arm? Because then it's just going to follow the arm. That's okay. It's not a bad thing that it's following the arm. We just need to make sure that we kind of make the animation look better or look good while it's still attached to that arm, right? And one of the things that's really going to sell this animation is making sure that the center balancing, right, on this mallet is right here in this middle section, right, or right here. Unfortunately, the rest of this mallet doesn't really it rotates off of this, and it's kind of off balance, and so we're going to have to kind of rotate the mallet and reposition it a few times while we're working, right? And so we're just going to have to kind of go like this, and then your mallet it's gonna when we're finished, it's gonna spin kind of in its own circle, because we have apologize everybody, just give me just 1 sec. apologize for that, everybody. So let's just keep building out this animation here. Gonna be viewing from the top a lot, making sure that we get this mallet going in a full circle, or an even circle, I guess, a balanced circle, right? And this, I think that I want the mallet to do three spins, right? I think I want my mallet to do 3 spins. Just going to go through and build in those poses. Look, it's making a nice circle. And we'll adjust that as we keep going, right? Okay, so since we have this main, and then after this, and I know we're going to do 3 spins, right? But we got the main idea right now of what's going to go on, and so we can just end this, you know, bookmark it, and make the end go back to idle, right? Go back to the acceleration pose, right? And so I want to now build this anticipation of where he's going to bend down and then throw the mallet up in the air, right? And so I'm going to do this. And so when I'm doing this, right, people based off of my last animation, I was saying when you're doing your blocking and everything, I would rotate the head this way, and I would not build the overlap into the pose, and I would just do that, and then I would kind of manipulate the timeline or manipulate the graph editor so that the overlap on his head is different. It would be a little bit nicer. This animation is going to be different. The reason this animation is going to be different is because, and he's going to, when he leans down, he's not going to go like this with his head, because there's not going to really be overlap with this animation, right? With the damaging animation, let's go over to that real quick. With the damage animation, you'll see he's not intentionally getting hit, right? He's getting hit, and he's not meaning to get hit, but that's just what's going on. With the spin attack move, he's intentionally leaning over, right? And he's going to throw it in the air. And so he's going to do this because he has to drive, and he's looking forward, and he's driving, and then he has to throw it up in the air, right? And it's very intentional. And so that's our anticipation pose. And one of the other things when we're building this animations is in video game animation, there's not a ton of room for anticipation, right? Like in a regular animation, you would have like in a cinematic animation, you would have the anticipation of him going down, holding, and then you would have him throw it up. And he would throw it up in the air and kind of do his thing, right? But he would have this holding pose, and it would anticipate that. But since this is not cinematic animation, this game animation, you have to build the animations off of the button press. Once they press the button, and then it happens. And so you kind of have to still build that anticipation, but do a quick one, and then he goes into the attack. And we might actually not start in the acceleration pose, right? We might start in this pose so that he's already in the acceleration pose when he's driving, and then on button press, it'll instantly go to this, and then he'll do his thing, right? So he might actually end up getting rid of that first pose, so he's not already in the acceleration pose, right? Because he's transitioning from the acceleration pose and going into the attack pose, right? Just answering some of the thread here on the live chat. And a lot of the viewers, there weren't many viewers when we began here, but I just want to state, and the audio was off in the first part of the video. If anybody has any suggestions, I wanted to make sure and say this at the beginning. Please, in the thread here, in the live thread here, make a comment, and I would love to implement any of your ideas or anything, or if you have an idea of, hey, maybe this could work better than what you're doing, I would be happy to implement that and happy to check it out and kind of build what you're asking me to build. I can probably do it pretty quickly, and so I'm open for that kind of stuff. I invite that. So if any of you have an idea you think would be better than what I'm doing, please don't hesitate to speak up, because my ideas, even though I work at a game studio, my ideas aren't always the best ideas, right? There's other people that could have better ideas, and that's what makes animation so cool and working at a game studio so cool. Everybody's kind of collaborating and coming together and giving their ideas. I'm going to animate something completely different than somebody else. The spin attack, somebody might do something similar, but they choose different timing, different spacing, or they choose a completely different idea, and that's great. My idea is not always the best idea, and I'm fine with that. Okay, so he goes down, anticipates, boom, throws it up, and then it spins, right? So, and so right now in blocking with this, I'm not going to actually build out anything else on him besides just the mallet moving, because I kind of want to see where it goes, see where his hand goes, right? He's throwing it up in the air. Obviously, his hand isn't just going to go like this and then it's spinning in the air, right? He's going to kind of sway his hand back and forth, or something is going to happen right there. But I kind of want to let that drive itself as I get to it, right? I don't want to limit myself to sticking to something that I may not want to do in the... I don't want to build out that blocking. I know my main poses and I know my main idea, but I don't want to have to counter animate or reanimate something if I don't know if it's going to work in this situation. And so I'm just going to kind of let it live how it's going to live, right? Let it do its thing when I get to that point. And any animators out there, I also want to say this, any animators out there that want to, send me a message or send Baka Bros Studios a message, the entertainment channel or whatever, send them a message and direct it at me to ask me to look at like some of their animations or a demo reel that they have. I would be more than happy to do that. I really think it's cool to see aspiring animators and see other people's ideas and what other people can bring to the table, and I'd love to give your demo reel a critique if you will send it over or send me a link or send Baka Bros Entertainment channel, YouTube channel a link. I'd be more than happy to check it out and give you feedback on any animations that you want some feedback on. I worked at I graduated from the Art Institute of Salt Lake City. I'm sure there's some of you on here that, maybe many of you, that are alumni or going to school at an art institute somewhere in the country. And I think it's great. That's where I graduated from. That's where I got my start in. And so I actually, after becoming a student there, after I got my job at the studio, I got my job at WildWorks before I graduated. I was able to snag a job or land my first animation job, my only animation job so far. Well, first studio job, official studio job at WildWorks a year before I graduated, and so after I graduated, I was actually able to become a teacher there. I taught animation. My stuff was good enough to be able to go and be a professor or whatever, an instructor. I should say instructor. A professor sounds too legitimate to me. I wouldn't say I see myself as a professor of any sort. Anyway. But yeah, no, I was an instructor there at the Art Institute, taught animation classes, and it was some of the most fulfilling, one of the most fulfilling jobs I've ever had, just teaching people animation and the arts and stuff, and it was just awesome. And so I very much welcome anybody that wants to send me their stuff. I very much welcome, giving their demo real critique. As you'll notice, I'm kind of going back to my poses here, because it's going way off kilter, right? Like, I want this main center part here to remain just over his hand, and sometimes it goes way out there, right? And I gotta make sure that stays generally in that position, right? I gotta make sure that stays, and keeping track of where his hand is in between this one and this control, and I've got to make sure that it stays generally in the right spot as it's spinning around, right? Let's count how many turns I'm doing. Throws it up. 1, 2, 3, and then it comes around for one last spin. And then he's going to catch it, right? And so we got one more pose in there. And we might take out this last, because it's technically a fourth spin, like a half spin, I guess. Well, we probably might take that out, but we'll see. And then it does this pose, and we're actually going to have to give ourselves another pose. That right there. Okay, and so the pose that I'm going to build out now, before he goes back to idle, is when he throws that up, right, and it's spinning, it's doing his thing, and then when it comes back around, he's going to catch it. It's going to, since that hammer, or that mallet is so heavy, he's going to catch it, it's going to kind of fling him to the side, and then it's going to return. He's going to go, and then it's going to return back to the, over his shoulder, right? And so he's going to throw it up, and then he's going to catch it, and he's going to kind of get jerked to the side because that mallet is so heavy, and so we need to build that animation in there, right? And so we can actually just take this pose here, set a key here so it locks in a pose, our acceleration pose, and then he gets thrown this way. Now again, I'm not going to build in the offset here, right? The overlap, on the head. I'm not going to build it in. I'm not going to do this because it's overlapping. I'm not going to build that in. I am actually going to put it to this side, and it's going to make my life easier with the graph editor and with the timeline, and I can just kind of shift those keys over, and it's going to build in that whiplash, right, with his head, right? And so I'm just going to I'm going to throw his head over that way. I'm not going to build the overlap in right now. Okay, I'm not going to do that. It makes life a lot easier if you don't do that. Okay. Goes up, spins, then boom, catches it. So I think we have our main idea in right now, right? I think we have our main idea in. And so we're gonna give this guy 100 frames. We're gonna give this attack animation 100 frames, right? I don't know exactly how many frames it's gonna come out to be, but let's just go ahead and start adding time in, right? Let's add in let's just say 4 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And I've just set up a hotkey, everyone. I can't emphasize hotkeys enough, right? I want to emphasize hotkeys a ton. The reason I'm known to be a little bit faster at animating, right? And the reason I'm known for that is because I have hotkeys, right? And my hotkeys are add in between, right? I don't know how many of you use the add in between feature, the right click keys, add in between. But pretty much it just adds in betweens in between your keyframes. Right? You have your keyframe, and then all this stuff right here where it's moving, right? You add those in betweens, and so you just do the add in between and subtract in between, right? Or remove in between keys, remove in between, and that'll just add or remove it in between. And I just have that set to Alt A and Alt S, add, subtract, right? And it makes it so I can do it really fast, so I can just go in and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I can just go into all of my and add in between super fast. And so I just press Alt A or Alt S, depending on if I want to add or subtract in betweens, right? Makes it super fast. Another hotkey that I set up is Control Alt S. Alt 2. Okay, Alt 2. Alt 2 is play. That's play, right? I don't have to. It may not seem that big a deal when you're doing this to go over and press the play button, right? And then press the stop button. But when you're animating, I mean, I have to be done. I have to animate, and then I get a key pose in, and then I'm like, okay, play. I want to see that. Okay, now stop, and then play. And over time, it may take you like 1 or 2 seconds to do that. But if you're animating for hours, right, and you have to do that, say 50 times, like say in a matter of 2 hours, you've done that 50 times, and each time it takes you a second. I mean, add it up, that's a whole minute, right? Or 2 seconds, add it up, that's almost 2 minutes of you just going and pressing the stop and play button. If you just use Alt 2 as a hotkey, that'll automatically press play for you and stop, and you don't have to go over it. And it is fat, and you know, it saves you that 1 second of time, but also it's just annoying for me, at least. Play, stop, and I have to go over a million times. I hate doing that, and so setting up your hotkeys is great. Okay. Just other hotkeys I also set up. I kind of do some rigging sometimes at my studio, and so another hotkey that I set up is I don't know who uses the outliner or the hypergraph. Here, it's not really hypergraph and outliner isn't really for animators. It's kind of for modelers and riggers and stuff. But I put that on like a Control 2, right? Ooh, this is a good one. The this setting over here where I always have to go and I have to change my animation to clamped and step to auto. I just set this preferences window to Control 1, so it just pulls it right up. Just click right into it and change that there. I don't have to go over here, click this, wait for it, and I just press Control 1. So that's just hotkeys are a big friend of yours. Okay, that's how you get fast, and I don't ever have to pick up my hands and do something else, right? I don't have to pick up my hand and go over here to another key or do whatever. I can just literally keep my hand in the literal same spot the whole time I'm animating and just use my hotkeys. Okay, using hotkeys is going to make you super fast. I promise you, if you can get used to using hotkeys, it is going to save your life, and it's going to give you the upper hand when you go get your first job and you have to do like an animation test in a game studio. It will give you the upper hand over everybody else because you're going to get it done super quickly and super fast. I had an animation test in my first studio. I did a run cycle in like 30 minutes, and although I didn't have my hotkey set up, I knew where everything was, and I was able to animate a pretty solid run cycle in about 30 minutes on a quadruped wolf character. And so just work on anything you can to make yourself faster, right? because that will give the upper hand over the other guys that are also interviewing. Anyway, now back to the animation. So what I've done here down on the timeline is I've given all the same timing, right? And the reason I gave all the same timing down here on the timeline is just because I wanted to block out, like, I just wanted to block out main idea, right? And see where my timing was. If everything falls on the same time, you know, there's 4 frames in between each frame, keyframe, and I just want to see how that was working, right? Obviously, it's boring right now. It's not very fun because the mallet is just kind of, it's going and it's just same block, you do, same timing, right? Well, just putting the same timing on everything, it kind of just gives you a general view of how the animation is looking as in a laid out time frame, right? And how is it looking when it's stretched out and you pull it out, and how does it look when it's not just in, like, all your key poses aren't in like 1 second, right? And it just gives you a general idea. And so obviously the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to speed up the mallet spin, right? And so I'm just going to go in, he throws it up, and then I want the first couple to be slower, right? But then it gets going, but then the mallet gets going, and it gets momentum, and it starts going faster, right? And so we cut that down, and then we cut it down so that the mallet is only 1 frame each time it turns. It's only 1 frame in between, right? And then on that last, let's see, yeah, we built out a lot of spins. Maybe 4 spins was a little too much. And then as the mallet gets to slowing down, we want to give it that ability to start slowing down. And then he's going to come around, he's going to catch it super fast, and then he's going to return to idle a little bit slower. And so goes down, anticipates for a sec, throws it up in the air, and it does its first spin, second spin, and then it just starts. Right. Let's see how that time is looking. We cut down about 25 frames, maybe more. I don't know. Let's shorten that time so that we can see it fast. Right, it's starting to do it, like he throws it up and it's starting it slow, and then it's super fast. Right, and maybe that first one's a little slow. So I want to slow that down a little bit. Throws it up. And yeah, I didn't like how slow that first. And maybe going out of it's a little slow too, so we want to speed that out. That outro or whatever. Just speed that up. Right. It gets momentum and then it starts going real quick. And the cool thing about this animation is we can actually build smear frames with those rockets, right? And that's what will really sell this animation, right? The smear frames of the rockets dragging behind is really gonna be cool. But we won't build that out right now. We'll just kind of see where we're at, right, with where it's taking us right now. Okay, so I think I have a pretty good solid idea of how the timing's gonna look. And so I'm going to go ahead and do my cool little trick here where I press S and I do the greater than sign, step over and just press S and make sure I have I lock down all of my poses on each of these frames, right? And I do that, and then I go in my graph editor. Okay, and then I go ahead and spline. Whoa, something crazy is going on, right? So let's see. So you'll notice, so for this animation, we actually have to build out the first, since the mallet is parented to his hand, we're gonna have to build out some of these, we're gonna have to manually control some of these keys here, because if you notice, he throws it up, and then it's going all wackadoodle, right? Woo! It's going crazy. So we're gonna have to build out some of those. We're gonna have to kind of manually key those, or we'll see what this does for us. We'll go to Euler filter, right? Curves, Euler filter. Boom! Look at that. So let's go and step back real quick. You'll notice that on all these, there's like these steps, right? There's all these steps, right? And we don't want those. And so if you see any weird stuff happening, like this frame here, a nice little trick that you can do where things are kind of going weird. This happens a lot with spinning objects, right? Especially if they're parented to other things. You're going to you're going to go to Euler filter, and that will fix anything you have, right? It'll fix any of the weird spinning you might have. And so it's fixed. Now it's fixed that. And you know, I'm kind of deciding now that I don't like how slow it goes into this spin, right? I don't like how slow it's going to that spin. I want to speed that up. And it just right off the bat, he throws it and it's just spinning, right? Maybe just a little bit of ease into that, but not much. He just kind of throws it up and just starts going. Okay. And just because I'm interested of what the smear frames are going to look like, because this blocking is going it's kind of really quick, right? I'm getting too excited. I'm just getting too excited. I don't know. Whew. Okay. We'll get these smear frames in here, right? We'll build out these smear frames. Oh, we're gonna grab that back of that rocket too. Ah! Okay. Bend that way. This might be a little crazy, guys. I don't know. We'll have to see how this looks. Let's go ahead and get rid of those. Oh, another hotkey. Another hotkey real quick. Alt-D. Okay, Alt-D. Instead of having to go, this will be a nightmare if you have to delete keys. Instead of going to the key and then right-clicking and then going delete, because you can't just go to the key and just press delete on your keyboard. If you do that, it'll just wipe out your entire animation. You have to right-click and delete. I made it so I made a hotkey so I can just Alt-D, right? Alt-D, and that will just get rid of the keyframe, right? And that saves me incredible amounts of time. So that's a good hotkey. That's a hotkey that I probably could not live without. Okay, let's see. Yeah. My assumption was right. Looks pretty sweet. We're going to have to build that out a little bit more, but for right now I wanted to see what it would look like, and it looks pretty awesome, right? It looks, at least to me, I don't know what everybody else thinks. It looks pretty awesome. Okay. So one thing I want to point out here is it's getting kind of muddy as I've put it out here. It's gotten kind of, I don't like how much of Mallet Boy I can't see, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, since I've already blocked out my mallet animation here, I'm going to pull that farther up. And that'll actually, depending on the angle of when we finally get it in game and everything, that'll actually, determine how much of a silhouette we can have. And so we're going to raise this up even higher above his head, right? And it's okay that it's that far. I mean, perspective and angle are going to cheat this animation a lot, and you still get the main idea, right? And maybe with this we want to tilt his hand like this a little bit more, right? I'm gonna have to go into the graph editor and do that since I already am done with blocking. Z. X. Ah! Oh, little bugger. Okay, we're just gonna have to do that and then adjust all the rotation values manually, which is fine. It's not hard. Just gotta go in, change them. Super easy, super quick. But as you can see with that, I've already given his arm and his hand a better silhouette, right? The mallet's no longer overshadowing that, and you'll also notice that my mallet is kind of tilted in the wrong direction. That's fine. Also, we can go in and we can just make the adjustment here as a whole. Oops. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Do this here like this. Then grab the Z and do that. Straighten this out. Right, we're trying to straighten this out. Oh, boy, oh, what am I doing? Okay, instead of on the mallet, and see, this is a lot of experimenting, like I've stated in previous animation tutorials that I've done. It's just a lot of experimenting because sometimes a graph editor. Okay, yeah, we just got to adjust his hand here. This. Okay, there we go. Now it's not tilted. And then we can grab this here. What's this little? What's this do? Okay, that's nothing. I'm gonna adjust that like that. Just a little bit. Okay, back on track here. Back on track. Yeah. Just that. Just a little bit more to the other side. It's so noodly. Okay, so that is spinning above his head, and I might change that a little bit later. Spinning above his head now, and we've got a clear silhouette of his hand the whole time, right? The mallet isn't you know, going over him, isn't making this muddy at all. And maybe I want to actually pull this over as well, over here like this, so we can get a better silhouette of his head as well, right? Okay. So now I want to work in this hand, okay? I want to work in this hand. He throws it up, right? We want to, well, first of all, let's go ahead and ease that in here, like this. Ease that in like that. Oops. Grab the wrong control. Ease that in. Right. And then he throws it. So when he throws it, he needs to have follow through, right? Right now, he just kind of stops. He doesn't go anywhere, right? His hand, his body, it doesn't really go anywhere. And so because that mallet is so heavy, even though he's not contacting the mallet, even though he doesn't always have contact with the mallet, he doesn't have contacting the mallet at all in this animation. He's putting it up in the air and it's kind of spinning. We still want to build out the physics of that mallet being super heavy, and so we want his hand to kind of be doing this kind of a thing, right, and his body kind of reacting to that as well. And like I said, I don't want to build that in blocking because I just wanted to see, kind of naturally let it do its thing. And so what I'm going to do is, since this pose is really stiff here anyway, and I haven't really got any animation the arm or the hand or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just have him go up in there, and then I'm going to delete all of these all up until he changes poses and he comes back into here, right? And so then that will give us the ability to add overlap, right? And so then since now it's coming back this way, we're going to have him going back this way. Maybe that's a little drastic. Go back just a little bit. And we don't want it to line up perfectly. And since these are all the same, going to be the same thing, we'll randomize them later. We can just build that out right now. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and... Did I ever change this? I did not change this. Change this, because if you add any new keys in anywhere, it's going to... it's going to it's going to create a stepped pose. Okay. Go ahead and change that to auto. Boom. Let's see what we got here. Okay, yeah. That's giving him a little more life, right? And it's giving him a little bit more. And again, his head, he's like, ugh, looks a little stiff, and that's okay. Oh, sometimes I love acting out these animations. It's just, everybody gets a kick out of it. And so what we can do is we can go in and we can re-block, we can reset all these keys, right? Since we haven't set any animation on his head or anything, we can go ahead and just press the S key. We can select his head and we can select the body, since the body is driving the head, right? And we want those same keyframes. On keyframe positions on the timeline. We're going to go ahead and press S and the greater than sign, and so we can set a key on the head control that are the same on the body control, right? And since the body is driving the head, then that will give us a really simple, we don't have to go in and manually add in all of these keyframes for the head. We can just automatically, it's a really super quick way to get the keyframes in for that are the body and the head, since the body is driving the head, okay? And so we're going to have the head going over to the side and doing the same, hitting the same poses, so to speak, as the body, going, leaning side to side, same as the body. And then we can build that offset afterwards, right? We can build in that offset afterwards, and so we'll just go like this, right? And now his head is just automatically offset from here. Maybe that's a little too much on the head. We don't like that. At least I don't. It's a little too much for me. And so we can just go in here and just shrink these down, right? Just go like this. So it's not as much, but his head still has a little bit of that offset, right? It's not doing this quite the same thing as the body. So we built that offset, and now I'm going to do something with the hand, okay? And since the hand is being driven off the body, you're right that your shoulder kind of follows the same motion as your body. Your shoulder follows the same motion as your body, and the hand kind of does something different. We're going to build out those hand poses the same as the body, right, on the same timing. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. Select the hand pose, select the hand control, and select the body control, and we're going to press S, greater than sign, and S, until we have the same controls, right? And then we're going to go through, and we're going to add in, we're going to move the hand as the same as the body. Okay. Let's go here. Move that over. Okay. Let's see here. I'm being super quiet right now. I'm just concentrating, just focusing. Maybe instead of coming back to that side, it just comes over this side, this side even more. And then it actually, since he's gonna go catch it, his arm even comes even more over, down. And it catches it. Nice. See that? See that? And just that subtle arm movement, right? Is just kind of adding a lot of life to the animation, and we can even plus that, right? Because right now, the mallet, he throws it up in the air, and the mallet's kind of staying in the same plane, same axis, right? But if we rotate that hand just a little bit, ever so slightly, it's going to kind of give this teetering effect to the mallet, right? And in theory, it kind of seems like it might not be good, but I kind of want to try it out. First of all, though, I want to make it so the mallet isn't tilted at all, and so I want to change that. Oh, we've adjusted this so many times to get it to look right. And I think it looks pretty good right there. And so he throws it up. It's tilting to this side, right? And then he's going to come back to this side, and it's tilting to this side. I'm going to tilt it to that side, right? Tilt to that side, and then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to copy and paste the keyframes. Right? Let's see how that looks for us. To me, and I don't know about everybody else, it kind of gives this teetering somebody asked a question in the thread, is there a way to have it stretch a bit or have a wide area of effect? If not, we could always do a VFX with it. I think VFX with this animation will really drive this animation a lot. I think I understand maybe the question is kind of bringing it over, maybe make it so it's a wider range, right? So it's not just so over his head. It's kind of making a smaller circle, right? Maybe, I think, as if I'm reading the question right, we can build that out. We can make it so it goes wider. So we just need to, on these keyframes here, we just need to pull that out, right? Like that, and then pull it out here. And this actually will kind of be cool because when he throws it and he goes up in the air with it and then is out like that, the first one can be really far out. It can come in, and then that one goes far out. That one goes far out, and that one comes in. This one's just a little farther out, and then you can do the same thing in here. And then as it's circling back in, maybe we can have it go really far out. Oh, sorry, it was Lord Asmore that asked that question over on the stream. I think I might have understood the question. You have to message me back and make sure I understood your question correctly. I think he was talking about the range, the distance over his head, because right now when we animated it was really kind of compacted right above his head. We wanted to make it so it spread out so there was more room. Like it affected the enemies. It looked like it would affect the enemies more. That's the way I took it. And if we want to even plus that and make it even farther range, we can pull it out like that. Maybe there's just a little bit too much rotation on the on this here, so let's just tone that down just a little bit. But I do want some. I do want a little bit of rotation, so that it randomizes, right? We don't just want this perfect goes up in the air and it just spins in this straight circle right above his head. We want it to be kind of random. Artistically, it'll just make it better. And so I think that's a good. That's a good medium. Going to take his hand here and I'm going to rotate it downward actually. I'm going to have to build this out ourselves like this because I've decided I want to see that more of that mallet because we can see more of the smear frames. And smear frames are just cool. In the right spots, right? You don't want to put smear frames in where it doesn't make sense because then it'll just look like you're purposely putting smear frames in where they don't belong. Okay, and so we'll notice that his mallet kind of just snaps down, right? And that's fine. Our hand pose. Let's pull our hand pose out just a little bit here. And we don't have to. We don't have to keep the mallet following his hand right there, exactly right. We can adjust the mallet to however we want it to, so it'll look nice. We want this actually to drag behind a bit like this and his head to do the same. Right. Pull that. It's kind of hard when it comes back, so it kind of stops when it hits here, right? So we can actually pull this way and soften up that landing. Pull it up too. And again, if I get quiet for a second, I'm just really into it. Spots I don't want to quite make it follow the hand precisely. I'm going to build in my own pose here. And some of you might worry about clipping issues of where like the mallet might be clipping the cart in certain areas, but honestly the move happens so quickly the players don't honestly know that the clipping happens unless they're looking for it, unless they pause the game right on the right frame. They won't see that clipping. It just happens so quickly. Okay. Oop. It's kind of a jump. Let's give that a frame. We're not getting that jerky motion, right? We're not getting that boom, right? The weight of that mallet is kind of a little soft when he's coming back, and he kind of grabs it a little soft, right? So we want to make sure we kind of emphasize that, and so we can pull this over like this, and keep his body over like this, and then boom, it goes over just right at the last second kind of thing. And it stays in this over pose, and the head kind of drags behind that. Pull this, oops. Pull his arm. Let's save it. Whoo! I have not saved this entire time. Oh, you guys should have reminded me. Oh man, that was scary. Sometimes I realize I don't save, and I literally have a mini panic attack. Especially when my Maya like freezes up for like 2 seconds, and I just at that moment I realize that I haven't saved it, and I have a miniature panic attack. And because Maya can just give out at any time, right? You can just like totally just lose all of your work. This whole stream would have been for nothing. Now, luckily, this animation wouldn't be too bad to recreate, right? That's the nice thing. I mean, if you do lose animation, that's the nice thing about redoing it. I mean, it sucks to have to redo something, but at the same time, you know what you're going to do the second time, right? You know exactly where your key poses are. You know exactly. You don't have to experiment anymore. You've already done all the experimenting. You've already gone through all the whole rigmarole of trying to see what you need to do to get the animation to read, and you just get to like kind of just easily coast through the animation because you know exactly what you're going to be doing. Yeah, right. This is looking more like I want it to now. Maybe pull this up like this. Kind of hitting, kind of jumping down too much timing and spacing wise. Okay, now I want this head to hit this pose still, right? But I want to build in this head pose here where it does this overlap. But I want to still have that head pose that I built in. It makes my life a lot easier, like to me at least, of where I don't have to do it later on. I already built it in there. Now looking at the, okay, let's look at this from the back and see how it's looking. Looking kind of slow on the re-enter right here, right? It's kind of, and you know what? Let's just kind of easing in. Let's set a key here. Let's set a key here, and then just get rid of that right there. Get rid of that pose. It's just a nuisance pose. Get rid of that pose. Right. I want his head to jerk a little bit more. So I'm going to pull his head really far over. Right. The mallet is super heavy, and so it's gonna jerk him real good. There we go. I like that jerkiness. Okay. And so adding a little more detail, we're just about done with this animation, just about done with our hour. I said I'd give another 10 minutes since audio, I didn't realize the audio was bad, right? I didn't realize viewers wouldn't be able to hear me for the first 10 minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and add in, I'm going to grab these fingers here, right? And this is just a little bit of polish animation, but it's going to go super far with the players and the viewers, right? When he starts spinning, he goes up. I'm just going to delete all this animation, all these keyframes here, right? And then since the fingers are being driven off the hand, I'm going to make sure that they have the same key poses, right? I'm going to deselect that hand. And so then I'm going to decide, okay, this hand is open here, and then it closes here, and then it opens again every other time, right? Closes. And so right now we see this linear, like woo 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 woo, right? But the cool thing is that we can go ahead and go in there and add this like this offset with these fingers, right? And so we want the pinky to go first, and then this one, and then this one. And so what we're going to do is we're going to deselect all the pinky controls. We're going to grab all these. We're going to drag it behind. I'm just going to drag it over. Right, and that's going to give us this look, right? And so then we're going to deselect all the middle finger controls, and we're going to grab all these, and we're going to pull them over. Yeah, look at that. This is awesome. It's kind of fast. I think it makes it look more awesome. And when slowed down, it just looks really cool. Oh. Let's just go like that. Something else we can do with the hand here is the fingers, the finger controls, is we can have the hand stay open longer, right? So it stays in this pose until right when he's going to grab it, right? That way it just doesn't kind of float into grabbing it. He waits until the last second and then he grabs it, right? And it'll open up the hand more and then look like he's actually reaching up and snapping, grabbing it, right? And again, just like all the animations I've done, I kind of live streamed. I might go back into this and I might tweak a couple things, obviously, right? Especially if it goes in game and we see it in game, and we decide, you know what, let's make it so the mallet is pointing towards the camera just a little bit more, so we can see a little bit more of that circular helicopter action, and see what we can do there for that. And just might view it a couple more times to see what else I can do as far as the smear frames goes. Maybe we'll go ahead and build that out right now, because they're kind of stiff, right? And there's a part of me that wishes there was a middle control here, but it's not necessary. I mean, I think we can get away with what we have, right? Maybe. Ooh, sorry about that, guys. Maybe we can pull those in, maybe so they're not so epically smearing, right? Pull them in like that, and then they're going to return sooner. I like that more, actually, yeah. Okay, from this angle I'm seeing, might get a smoother look if we actually take this, because you'll see here that it's kind of, you'll see the leading edge right, the edge right here, right? It's not, it kind of just, it cuts short right here, and so we can kind of pull this out a little bit. So it looks, it makes a better circular motion. Maybe pull this out like this. Pull that one out too, forward. So this part's really nice. Like it's really flowing together. Like this here, this arc here is really flowing nicely together. Maya froze, and I had one of those mini panic attacks. Luckily, I saved it not too long before that. Okay, we're getting close to our hour mark here, and I think we've served the purpose of this animation here. I do want to point out one thing. You'll notice I haven't animated the cart at all, right? I haven't animated the cart doing anything. It's not really accelerating or doing its thing, as far as it's not doing the acceleration animation, right? It's not, there's nothing happening on it, and that's not really because I want all the attention to be on the spin or anything. That's just because when I blend the animations together, right? I think in Unreal we're gonna be exporting the cart as a whole separate thing, and then Mallet Boy as a whole separate thing, and then the mallet as a whole separate thing, right? And then we're gonna parent Mallet Boy to the cart, and then the mallet to Mallet Boy, right? And so you're gonna have these separate animations for each of these guys, and we're just gonna parent them each one, but each one of them is gonna have their separate animation. I'm not exactly 100% sure how it works in Unreal when it's all together, but I think that's maybe what we're probably going to end up doing. They all have the same animation, and so they're, when exported, they're all in their poses. All the animations are exported, and joints are exported in their positions and poses, and the animation is exported all together and everything. And so it'll all work together. But as the animation is blending all together, the card is going to be doing its animation underneath here, right? It's gonna be doing its original accelerate animation. There's no reason for me to go in and animate, me to copy and paste the animation on the accelerate on the cart, because we're gonna be constantly playing that, and we might go in there and might decide that we need to do that. And since I already animated the acceleration animation, it's really not going to be hard. All I have to do is select all the cart controls, copy and paste the cart controls from the acceleration animation into the spin attack animation, or any other animation that I really need to do. I just need to copy and paste that animation, and it'll be just fine. I don't have to do any new work or anything with that. Right? It's reusing your animation. Right? But yeah, I think right now, for the purposes of this video and for the purposes of wanting to, walk you through doing this spin attack, I think we've covered it. I think for this animation, the VFX will do a lot of justice for this, right? Maybe there's going to be a ring of fire that appears around the mallet, as it's spinning, right? Or we have these cool this cool like a plus smear thing that's going to be happening right here throughout this part. This gray looking thing, or these lines, these action lines or whatever, they're going to be in this area. And so VFX, I've got to keep that in mind too. I don't have to worry a ton about making sure it looks perfect, because there might be VFX that the VFX team will do, and we'll just add to this animation, and then I can, once I see those VFX, I can then go in and adjust my animation off of that and really see what it's doing, and I can possibly make it even better. But I think for right now, I think we're good to call this one good. We don't have time for the other animation, But yeah, I'll be jumping on either Wednesday or Thursday. For sure Thursday I'll be jumping on streaming again. I kind of want to start doing this more, doing animation tutorials, not just for Chaos Kart. Maybe do a run cycle, do a walk cycle, and walk people through that. There's lots of them online, but I think it's something else where you're live streaming it, right? And although we might not probably won't be using a run cycle and a walk cycle in Chaos Kart, I think it'd be really fun and cool to see these characters doing that and just kind of walk through the animation exercise of doing a walk cycle and a run cycle. And I kind of want to start doing other animation tutorials as well on the Baka Bros Entertainment channel for other animations that don't necessarily have to do with Chaos Kart. They're just kind of walking through like 2D characters, right, for game, and how to animate 2D characters for game, and cool stuff like that. And so that's what I'm hopeful for, and I hope you all keep joining me on the stream, and I look forward to streaming again with you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today or tonight. Again, I'm Gogan with Baka Bros Studios, and you have a good night, guys. Thank you again.